To add a lens flare to an image, it's not difficult in Photoshop anymore, but there are some kind of workarounds. So for instance, we've got this great little image here, and if we just go up and go to Filter, Render, and then come down to lens flare, you've got options here to actually control where the kind of the brightness is going to be, how far it's going to go, as well as obviously the different effects for the different lenses and so on with it. So if we just kind of click OK to that to begin with, the only problem we've got is that even though they've got great lens flares going on here, we can't move it around at all. So the workaround, in fact, in the correct way, is basically do exactly what we just did. So in other words, go to Filter, go to Render and the lens flare, put the lens flare exactly where you want it to be and exactly the spread that you want it to be, and press OK. Then basically just Control Z to step backwards. Now we're going to create a new layer and we're going to fill it with black. Go and do the same thing, but just use the lens flare at the top here, and it applies the lens flare in the exact same position that it was before. I'll show you why now in a minute. But basically all we need to do now is turn the blend mode from normal to screen, and it basically allows us to kind of see through. The benefit in this, of course, we can now go in if we want to and blur it. If you're going to blur it, I would actually convert it into a smart object first. Then go in and basically add the filter blur and a Gaussian blur, just to actually change the amount of fuzziness of the actual lens flare itself. Making sure it's not too much. The only thing you've got to really look at is that if you want to move the lens flare around the image now, you've got to be aware that basically the black is a part of the actual flare as well. You can see it just actually over on the layers palette there. But that is the kind of the quickest way to do the lens flare. So why did I do that workaround? Well, if I just choose another image for a minute, if I just create a new layer as we did on the girl, and we go to Filter and Render and lens flare, it won't allow me to do it because there's nothing in it. So that's why, as I said, the first thing to do, let me delete that, just go in and Filter, Render, lens flare, choose the point of where you want it to be, the spread, etc. Then basically step backwards, Control Z, new layer, fill it with black, hit the Filter, lens flare once more, turn it into screen mode, and we've done the same effect. Again, remembering that, as I recommend, turn that into a smart object, so it means that we can go into Filter, Blur and Gaussian blur. Now we can use the Gaussian blur without it being in a smart object. The difference being, though, I can't go back and actually adjust it again if it's a little bit too much or not enough and things really. So yeah, that's the quick way to add a lens flare in towards an image.